All right. Late night pod on a Wednesday. Soren Petro's here. It's Cofield. That it is. That it is. You're a busy guy. What was going on tonight? You doing fantasy baseball?
Fantasy Formula One.
You're not serious.
I'm 100% serious.
Really?
Yeah, fantasy Formula One racing.
Oh my God. I was planning on doing 45 minutes on your draft. I think I'm out.
Was that the plan? You can see they're trying to figure out who my snitches are for our league.
By the way, I did send out the tweet without tagging you. So if you go on my account, I knew I was going to screw that up.
That's all right. I follow you, so I found it.
What a moron.
We begin with my fantasy Formula One league, but won't stay there long.
Who's got tips on this? Anybody? Anybody in here yet? Who's got F1 tips?
I don't know. I think I'm pretty well rounded on the Formula One, to be honest with you.
Brady's saying he's done fantasy NASCAR, PBR, and NHRA.
I'm proud of him.
Kirk might not be serious, says fantasy backgammon. Somehow mocking on our good friend Renee not being able to do fantasy backgammon either. So
I think Adam Hill does fantasy. Adam Hill bets on backgammon, doesn't he?
Pretty much bets on everything.
It's basically like daily fantasy, but it's obviously weekly with each race. You have a salary cap, and you pick 5 racers and a constructor, and you have like a double up thing, and so this is the first week, so we got to get everything in. It's based on qualifying and all that kind of stuff. So
I have no idea. What is that? Does that mean something?
I'm assuming he means Lando Norris.
Okay,
he's one of the racers.
Right.
That'd be my guess. Steve, you don't follow the Formula One?
I don't. I've been told to follow it, and I've been told to watch the reality show. There's a reality show on it.
Oh, it's fantastic. It came out Friday. Season 3 came out Friday, and Lando Norris, by the way, drives for McLaren. It came out on Friday night, so Thursday night. I'm up doing stuff, and at 1 a.m. I'm like, let me see if it's out, and it was out, and I watched like the first 3 episodes from like 1 a.m. to like about 3 Thursday night, Friday morning, and then Friday night after all the basketball was done, and I'd watch all the recaps and highlights. I watched like the next 4, and then I watched like the last 3 on Sunday night. So I stretched it over. I was done by Sunday night. I'd seen the whole one.
Oh wow, that must be good.
It's if you want an education, if you want to follow it, right? Because it's the most expensive and the fastest racing in the world. I'm not going to tell you it's the best racing because there's a lot of ass kicking that goes on. But if you're interested in the fastest cars in the world and the most expensive, and they finally put it like a salary cap. That's like one of the new developments the last couple of years. But just like country against country, constructor against constructor, and when you consider the most expensive athlete in the world is Lewis Hamilton, I don't even know what his deal is this year. I haven't looked. He was unsigned for a long time. They knew they were going to sign him, but guys from Mercedes, and he's making like 45, 50 million. And then there's all his endorsements. Their endorsements are like tennis players. They endorse watches and all the most expensive stuff. And so they're sick, the amount of money. I mean, it's and you get a chance to see the inner workings. It's kind of like what's the NFL thing on HBO? What's it called? Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks, yes.
It's like a 10 episode. Yeah, no, it's like a 10 episode Hard Knocks with all the behind the scenes stuff, and guys are cussing, and they're pissed at the driver for crashing, and the driver's pissed at him for this, and they jack up the tire. Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy racing, even if you don't enjoy racing, but you've been kind of like, what is this shit? Give it a try. If you don't like it, then move on. But so for me, I was into Formula One, and then I saw this series when the pandemic hit, and I watched the first 2 seasons in like 7 days. And then season 3 just came out, like I said, last Friday. Our buddy Schultz, who I'm doing the fantasy league with, he saw the mini series, and that made him a fan of the racing. So,
wow. Are there European fans who act like NFL fans when they hear that Lewis Hamilton makes $55 million and they're like, I would do it for free?
I don't.
Here's the
I
whole
don't
point.
know.
You can't. You would die.
Probably. I mean, there is an element of like, because there's the racer championship and then there's a constructor championship. Every constructor has 2 cars. So there's 2 Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis Hamilton finished first and Bottas finished second. So there's kind of like, is it all the car? Is it the driver? But I mean, it's
really, they do. Is it the car? It's like Belichick and Brady debates.
Well, because it's not like NASCAR, like every car has to be 100% completely built from scratch by the race team, right? And there are specifications, like it's a hybrid engine, they don't gas it up. The pit stops take like a good pit stop's like 2.8 seconds, because they come in, they jack it up, they change the tires, they drop it, and they go. And so even that's like amazing. Like you like a good NASCAR stop, because I watch NASCAR too. I'm, I say a closet racing fan. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed by it. I love racing, but it's just not something you talk about mainstream sports talk, right? So like a really good NASCAR pit stop's like what, 11.8 if they're taking all the gas, 11.5, something like that. They're dropping those cars in like 2.8 seconds. I mean, it's something to behold. So yeah, that's the name of the
series. Of it, right?
Yeah, Formula One Drive to Survive. It's great.
Kirk could be telling the truth or just fibbing. I have no idea.
There's no team Lego.
Lego.
There are 10 racing teams. That's one of the reasons why they put a cap on it. There used to be more cars. So 10 racing teams, 20 cars. And it's gotten so expensive. Like Mercedes, Red Bull, which obviously is not a car manufacturer, so they outsource everything. Ferrari, Racing Point changed to Aston Martin. AlphaTauri, Haas, which is the American team, which sucks. Shocking. Alfa Romeo. Who might I need to missing 3? Alfa Romeo. Trying to think of the team colors that are out there. Not that anybody else cares. Oh, Renault, but Renault changed to Alpine. They've got a sponsorship deal, so Alpine. But Renault's the big French car maker. But so you get like, McLaren's a British team. Now Aston Martin is a British team. Ferrari's an Italian team. Mercedes is a German team. Renault's a French team. There's like national pride with all these. And so when you go around all the different ones, Red Bull uses a Honda engine. That's correct. For one more year, but Honda's pulling out of the sport because it's too expensive. And so this will be their last year with a Honda. So they used to have a Renault engine, and I don't know how far into the minutia people want to go, but I don't think they want to go. I don't think they want to go as far as me and like 2 other people on this conversation want to go. I'll do it all night, right? I mean, I love it, but I don't think this is what people signed up for. And we're like, hey, NCAA tournament and NFL free agency, and here's this jackass talking about the hybrid power plant used by Red Bull is a Honda engine, but not for very much longer. Ferrari's not even trying this year. Haas isn't trying. They're both just because there's major changes to the dynamics of the cars and everything for 22. So they're basically tanking this year. So there's tanking in Formula One. So
I love this. I'm somewhat impressed. Not fully impressed. It's going to give you a little bit of a fist bump.
I mean, one of these like
almost
like, yeah, some stuff, but God, I don't give a shit. Like I'm impressed by somebody who can tell me about the, splitting of atoms, but like only for about that long. And then like, okay, I don't give a shit.
Do you drink wine as you watch?
I don't. Most of the races are at like, they could be at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. This week's race is in Bahrain. I've been calling it Bahrain. I was corrected by somebody, said it's Bahrain. And they run a night race there, so it's 11 a.m. Central, so it'd be 9 a.m. Pacific. So like if you're in the Pacific, there are a number of races that, like they're 5A starts on Sunday. So they qualify on Friday. I mean, I will tell you the spectacle of it, and then we got to get off this because I know there's a lot of people like, what are you people doing? The spectacle of it. I mean, they roll in and they build like buildings at every stop. Teams have their own race course. Just the amount of money that goes into it is insane. Like they pay Lewis Hamilton $45 million. They used to spend well over $200 million on the team. The Mercedes team had over 2,000 employees.
Are the ratings so big on this around the world that it justifies the money?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. I mean, it is like when you see Ferrari fans Like they are batshit, like red smoke and Ferrari. Like you didn't see it last year because there was a pandemic, right?
Right.
But like they were the first one to get back going. They're like, okay, we're getting this shit up and running because there's a lot on the line.
Yeah.
And they got it up and going. They only had 2 drivers, I think. Was it Lance Stroll and Lewis Hamilton at the end? And then Lewis Hamilton is a generational talent. He's won 7 championships, 6 of the last 7. Mercedes won 7 straight constructor championships. And so, Monaco Grand Prix is part of it. And the Monaco Grand Prix, so they run, like if you're a race fan, the Monaco Grand Prix runs in the morning, 7, 8 a.m. Then you get the Indianapolis 500, or is it the Coca-Cola 600? No, the Indy 500 starts at like 11 a.m. my time. And then I think it's the Coca-Cola 600, or is the Firecracker 400? One of them, Coca-Cola 600, one of the NASCAR. So that's like the grand day of racing. And they package it, it's those 3 races. Without a doubt, the worst race is the Monaco Grand Prix because you're around city streets in Monaco. And so there's almost, the straightaways are so straight, and like it's almost impossible to pass. So it's a whole shot. You got to qualify on the pole, and then it's a whole shot to not lose it, and then almost no one passes. But when you're going by literally dozens and dozens and dozens of $100+ million yachts in the backdrop and the mountains and everything, it is like a stunning. It's like watching the American Century Championships in Tahoe. The golf is shit, right? Tony Romo's pretty good, but Patrick Mahomes ain't that good. You're not watching for the golf, but when you see that blue water and the mountains, and then there's celebrities. There's all kinds of celebrities in Monaco, and the backdrop is incredible, and all these, hundreds of $1 million yachts. There's billions and billions of dollars, literally billions and billions of dollars of yachts that you see as they go around the course and everything. It's a stunning thing to watch. But if you don't like racing and you don't give a shit about other people, other rich people seeing their shit, then you'll be like, this is dumb.
Wow. I think you just slipped there. Did you hear that, audience? He's like, if you don't care about other rich people, Petro's Petro's like, I'm rich. I like to watch events where my kind are participating.
That's what an asshole. That's not at all what I meant. I mean, if I sit there, like I'll Google, like somebody said something like, oh, that guy owns the biggest boat in the world. So I Googled it and wanted to look at all these images of what it is. I'll never own a $600 million yacht that's 450 feet long. But I was like, it's just a stunning, it's an impressive view, right? Do you ever you ever been to the beach and just sat out and stared at the ocean?
I have too much going on. ADHD.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say like once every 6 months, I'll be on the drive home and I'll look up and I'll be like, wow, this is a valley. That's pretty cool. There's some mountains and snow over there.
Listen, you get spoiled when you see something every day, but
yeah.
When I'm in Vegas,
the thing is, I actually don't even look up to see the freaking beautiful scenery here in Las Vegas. People are probably laughing right now. By the way, Joey, thanks. You're in on our F1 podcast. We do about an hour of this.
We don't.
Welcome.
No, we don't. You asked. I told you I had a fantasy. All I said was I'm going to be ready right before we start because I got a fantasy thing. I have a fantasy league thing I got to do. And you're like, oh, you doing a fantasy baseball league? I said, no, it's actually Formula One. And then you're like, what the fuck? And so I was like, okay, here's the deal. And so.
Do we change the name to what Cam is suggesting?
Yeah, we're not effing around. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's good. It's good. If you want my tips on where to go? No? Okay.
What do you mean tips? What happened?
Well, just like if you're in a league and you pick your drivers and pick your constructor, and you want to break down on Pierre Gasly or
who's Shoemaker?
You know who he is.
What?
You know who he is.
I actually don't.
He's the jackass that dropped out of the league because he started coaching baseball.
Oh, I thought we were still on F1. I thought it was a driver.
Oh, well, maybe he is. So we have a Shoemaker in our baseball league who's coming back. Steve and I's baseball league. But there is Michael Schumacher.
Oh.
Shoemacher. Maybe there's no E. His son, Mika Schumacher. Michael Schumacher is the he has all the records that Lewis Hamilton is breaking right now. And then Mika Schumacher, his son, is just into the league. He got a seat with Haas Racing. So So he'll finish last every week.
PM Owl is asking me if I can proxy his Lando bets. I would if I knew what that was. And yes, we have officially renamed the show.
We're not
F1ing around here podcast.
We're not. We got sidetracked, and I keep trying to go another direction, and you keep dragging it out and putting more shit up there.
Someone makes a comment. This is a local joke. This just got as awkward as the DRF interview yesterday. We talked to the AD. Well, we talked to the AD at UNLV, Desiree Reed Francois.
Okay.
CJ, follow up on that. Where did you think it got awkward? I'm just curious. I think we had an inside joke about your show. Was someone asking earlier about Kirk and someone else? Were you talking about Kirk on the air?
Me?
Yeah, I thought someone made a comment about is Kirk and someone else going to be on the show. I don't remember now. On
my show or on your show?
Are Scott and Kirk going to be on tonight? Soren?
No. So Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott have done a show on 810 called The Racing Boys. And they do everything from local racing to regional racing to national to global. They don't really do Formula One. Mostly it's NASCAR to local tracks, dirt tracks, I-70 Speedway, like the pavement tracks. And they're no joke. RacingBoys.com. If you're a racing fan, wherever you are, they are the two most knowledgeable racing guys around. And yes, I do listen to them because they know their shit. So
there you go.
Restrictor plate racing. That's my Kirk Elliott impression. I love Kirk Elliott. I actually did a celebrity race at I-70 Speedway. Scott didn't race because he actually races, but Kirk was in it, and I had Kirk beat, and I car lost fifth gear, and Kirk passed me on the last lap. Pissed me off.
Okay. By the way, this is still the name of your show, the program? You're doing the football team thing? Sticking with it?
The program, yeah.
Why don't you go? You're doing afternoon drive now. Why isn't it just like Petro? Or as Chad Duke? I think Chad Dukes in DC is like Chad Dukes against the world. Petro against the world.
I think the world won with Chad. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, what happened?
Yeah, the world won.
He got in trouble or he got cut?
We're not going to talk about it. You just go Google it later. We'll discuss it some other time.
God damn it. I have a radio topic to discuss that Brady sent over. Someone did a radio bit that may go wrong. All right, since you brought in a wild card topic, before we get to all the college basketball, I have a wild card topic as well. These are always dangerous. I sent over a topic to you, and I simply said, are you a good neighbor? Do you consider yourself a good neighbor?
Depends on which side of my house you ask.
Oh, is that right?
Why do you go? Did somebody put you up to this?
No, not at all. I have my own angle. I was just curious. I wonder if people think about this. Are you a good neighbor? I don't know if you have a war going on with one of your neighbors. I have no clue. It looks like a lovely neighborhood. You've got a basketball court. I shoot there.
I don't have a basketball court. I have a goal and a driveway.
You have a hoop and it's lowered, and I come over and I throw down massive jams. The 2 days I'm there in Kansas City, and I've never had someone go, stop shooting, God damn it, I can hear the bat. You don't have a nasty neighbor that I know of.
Well, that's on that side that the basketball goal is. If he opened, listen. First of all, shout out to Family Leisure, where I got my Goalrilla basketball goal. All right, love for the sponsors. People have said I'm like a NASCAR driver the way I drop in the sponsors. Dennis and the guys, they're phenomenal. Patio furniture, pool table, poker table. They're the best. All my patio furniture, Steve. My Goalrilla basketball goal, poker table. If anyone ever gets to come in my house again, just got bar stools. They're the bomb. Family Leisure, familyleisure.com.
You and your sponsors, they drive me nuts. It's they're all, you're always mentioning them. They're all over the place. It's just completely ridiculous.
As you shuffle through all yours. Listen, we need sponsors, and they're great partners. If you're smart in this business, you know the people who take care of you. Family Leisure is one of them. They're great folks.
I'll give you the escape hatch. You don't have to mention the neighbor thing.
I'll do it. No, listen, I'm not going to run away from it. On this side, they're actually new neighbors and good folks, right? Good. We got no problems. I'm on the HOA, right? Because I'm a moron. He offered to help out. First time he was on we had a Zoom and we have an issue and he has experience in the issue. He's like, yeah, I'll help. So I thought that was nice. The other side, the guy blows his leaves out of my yard. When I first moved in, he tried to claim that the property line was like 15 feet further over than where it is.
Here we go.
His fence is like 4.5 feet onto my property, and I wasn't going to mess with it until my wife came in one day and said, it's the second time I've seen him raking his leaves onto our yard. That's it. I've had enough.
Oh, she's into it too. Good.
Oh, yeah. No. This is not just nutty me, right? Shout out to Robert Brogdon.
Is he on the HOA or just you?
No, he calls and threatens to sue the HOA.
Oh, wow. This could be. I didn't realize you had that kind of power. Does he know?
I don't have that kind of power. I'm just the guy dumb enough to volunteer 5 or 6 times a year to sit through the 2-hour meetings and try to do what I can for the neighborhood. I did it, and I had the sticks in. Yeah, we had the surveyor out, which is where we clarify where it was, and it turns out my property line goes right to his driveway.
Oh,
claiming he had the whole side yard, goes right to his driveway, but in the backyard, so our lots kind of angle out, and so his fence is about 1.5 feet on my property at the top of his backyard fence, and at the bottom, it's about 4.5 feet. And so they drive in the stakes with the pink flags and everything, and so he had, we had to do a bunch. The house was a disaster when we bought it. You remember, Steve? You saw it, holes to the outside and everything. And so he came over, he'd yell at the people doing work and bitch that they parked in front of his house. And one day he came over screaming. The first time I met the guy, he came over screaming at me that our mason was here at 4 a.m. running power, equipment. So I was like,
man.
That we weren't off to a good start when my wife basically dropped the checkered flag. Like I was like, I'm like, he put his trash on my grass. And like, I took it. And finally I'm like, I'll do it. Yeah, they will. Applause Custom Sight and Sound, applausetheater.com. Listen, yeah. So that was it. So we don't talk so much.
Man.
We had a conversation on his patio about where the trash was going to go, and now we don't talk.
I really feel for you. I've never had a neighbor who's been a pain in the ass, but I can only imagine.
So where did this come up? Because this was your topic, and it sounds like, hey, I wanted to bitch about somebody, and I really didn't.
I'm really not bitching about somebody. I just wonder the responsibility of neighbors when something goes slightly awry in your neighborhood. I live in a slum, so every once in a while someone will paint a wall, and I often wonder if I should just go out.
Do all the slums have pools? With
a spray gun. Should I go out with a spray gun and just fix the wall myself? I wonder when a shopping cart gets dropped off because we live near some stores. Is it my responsibility to take them back in the back of our Subaru? Because I will do that. Because I'll give it like 2 days and I'm like, you mother effers, you all have trucks. Everyone's got these goddamn pickup trucks. Throw it in the back of your truck and drive it over. I don't get mad. I just do it. But here was the latest one. Someone just annihilated this thing. So what should you do? Is it your responsibility? Are you a good neighbor if you just walk out with the shovel and you just scoop it up and take care of it? Or do you let it just...
Wait, now where is this?
This is basically right in front of my house.
But on the street or on the sidewalk? Street?
It's on the street. It's on the street, yeah. Like I've people have broken glass in the street near my driveway, and I've gone out and swept it up. And like I'm not going to let everyone drive over it and potentially pop the tire. So I'm going to go scoop this poor pigeon up that got crushed. And I hate pigeons, so I'm actually not that unhappy that it got crushed. Does that mean I'm a bad neighbor?
Hey, by the way, try Canadian geese.
Or am I neurotic? Oh God, I know. Well, I've seen your geese. Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want one of them.
They're all around our office. They lay eggs at our office.
Oh, really?
And so you come out the one door, and all of a sudden there's this honking male goose, like threatening to take a nip out of your crotch. Like they're like 40, 50 pounds.
Yeah. That was it. It was a quick story. It's a quick story. Yeah.
So are you a good neighbor, Steve? Yes or no?
I'm okay.
I would say that if you're a good neighbor to me, I think I'm a great neighbor. I actually at times when I take my old man walk will carry a plastic grocery bag and pick up litter around the neighborhood, and bring it home, throw it in the recycle, do whatever.
If I see it near my house, I'll go out and pick it up. I don't mess with the neighbors. I don't really talk to them. If they need something, I will talk to them. But yeah, there's no issues.
I volunteer my time with the HOA to handle things like when people call and say, when are we going to come over and clean their yard? Because the leaves that are in their yard blew over from somebody else's yard. So it's the HOA's responsibility to clean it. I deal with people who think that we should trim their trees because the tree hangs over the street, which clearly makes it the responsibility of the HOA.
Here, this is a good question. How many neighbors can you name?
Are we just talking about in the neighborhood?
Yeah. Well, you can name a lot because you're part of the HOA.
I know I'm actually, you know how bad I am with names. There's probably half the people on the committee with me. I don't know their name.
Yeah.
You know, dude, guy, ace, slugger, chief, those all work well.
I'm not good with names. My name, I've got older Trumper lady next door. Her name is actually Linda. I know her name. I've got Asian family on the right that never comes out. I've got Korean family across the way. Eugene might be his name. I know he told it to me, and I was like, that's a strange name. I've got a lovely African-American family across the way. They're really cool. I've got old guy in the corner who walks around the neighborhood as kind of the neighborhood watch and just chugs like a giant freaking big gulp of vodka, like 3 of them a day. And by the end of the day, when you talk to him, he is just lit up. I've got other old guy who drives a Charger. He kind of walks around the neighborhood. I see him every once in a while. I've got fat couple with the pickup truck, and that's about who I know.
So next door this way.
Yeah.
My wife is So
Sarah works wonders. Yes.
Yeah. Matt and Bibi, Gene and Yoni. Matt and his wife. 8 houses. I know. I mean, I know. Hey, how you ding to 10 or 12 more.
Yeah,
that's
good.
A couple folks from my church, and couple folks from the country club we don't belong to, but know enough people that we're at every now and then. That hey, I saw you up at the country club. Yeah, well, because I was,
the key thing is
my buddy.
If you're watching out for each other, so that's a good thing. So we all watch out, except for your next door neighbor. He's an ass. He'd actually enjoy. He'd just sit there watching your place get robbed.
Well, I mean, when you're threatening a lawsuit, like, come on, like, really?
It happens.
When you want to yell at the guys working on someone's house, like, they can't just kick your ass.
Right.
Right. They're like kind of like that's just cowardly.
Yeah, of course. We're not doing. We had this conversation. There's a lot of stuff we did during the pandemic that I'm not proud of. I think we had a whole conversation about taking them out and like.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, it was all based on that freaking nut job Alex Jones, because he was talking about eating his neighbors because his daughters might be starving. Right. And then I did start looking around at which neighbors I could kill, I would eat. Then we got into a discussion of like, what's the best meat? So that's pandemic. Like we just talked about it the other day, that Leslie Jones commercial where like pandemic Leslie Jones comes into a shot. It's like an Uber Eats shot, and pandemic Leslie Jones is just a freaking mess. And now Leslie Jones is just like, go away.
Right.
No, you're kind of dirty. I want to watch the tournament. Leave me alone.
You're a mess. We're all a mess.
Right.
Yeah, I love that line.
Double the madness. So do we get into the madness? Because I'm
sure.
I'm happy. I did okay betting. Brackets I don't care that much about. Teams that I really
no. The brackets are the ultimate measure of whether or not you know what you're talking about, Steve. How many do you have in the Sweet 16? Don't run from your failures.
I got 13.
Shut up.
No.
Eat shit. You have 13. Who told me? One of our guests. He told. I don't have him on all the time. I'm sorry, so I don't remember his name. It's not that notebook. He told me he had 13, and I'm like, BS. You did not have 13. Good dude. So I want to give it. Jordan Najani from CBS Sports, NFL writer. I said, how many did you get right in your 16? And I think I'm getting my ass handed to me. I haven't even looked. It's so bad. He said he had 13 out of 16. I said, bullshit. No, nobody has 13 out of 16. And he goes, all right, you're right. I don't even know. And then he tweeted me later. He had 6 out of 16, which I appreciate.
Oh,
I have 8 out of 16. I think Jed has 7. Curtis has 8. Gary Parrish had 7.
Experts.
He had 7, but he has 6 of his 8 Elite Eights and 3 of his 4 Final Fours. Everybody had Illinois, right?
I didn't.
Really? Who'd you have?
I don't even know what bracket that is. What bracket is it? Let me look it up.
Lower right.
My Final Four, lower right. That was the Midwest.
Lower right. They're all set in the same spot.
I just said the Midwest. That was Oklahoma State. I had Oklahoma State, Alabama.
That's awful.
Well, whatever. Oklahoma State, Alabama, Baylor, and Gonzaga.
Okay.
And I did not pick a Sweet 16. I just did not care enough. So
listen, I had Texas, and
that didn't work.
No, I seriously hear myself getting dumber by the second for putting any investment in Texas and Shaka Smart. Like, come on, seriously. There's no reason for that team to have lost. Junior, senior, junior, amongst 3 guards that can all shoot in the backcourt and 3 NBA front court players. Listen, that's the coach. That is the coach. If that doesn't win, then you can't come up with it. If you can't be – did you see Abilene Christian get their ass handed to them by UCLA?
UCLA, yep.
If with that firepower, you don't have a set or two that just beats them senseless, like I'm sorry. Shaka Smart had a couple of good runs, one really good run, and another one, I think, did he go to a Sweet 16 at VCU also?
Yes.
But he never finished higher than 4th at VCU. And I'm sorry, there's no way. Abilene Christian sucked. They were not good. God bless them for getting it done. They lost to Abilene Christian shooting 29%. Like, I honestly, if I'm the AD, I'm like, you got to go. Like, I'm always like, if not him, then who? But, like, that's anyone. When you lose to Abilene Christian shooting 29%, the answer is I don't give a shit. It's anyone. You got to go.
All right, well, let's get into your boy there, Kansas. Bill Self, they get blown off the floor by USC. Let me read you a couple of tweets here.
Okay.
Kansas has 21 points at the half. Really, Bill Self? How is this possible for a program like this? Another one. If you don't get on Bill Self in the next 7 minutes, you are not a college basketball fan. I only speak the truth.
Who was that?
JT the Brick.
You would do that.
Hold on. Kansas flat out quit on Bill Self and their fans. This is disgraceful.
I mean, I shouldn't have asked who it was. Where'd you go? Listen. I mean, I'm sorry. That's asinine. I'm not gonna pull a punch. You know, I know JT. Consider JT a friend, but shit, that's. Listen, you can't. That's a 30,000-foot view. You have to understand what's going on in Kansas. Number one, Jalen Wilson is arguably their best player, and he had just come back from COVID, and you don't know how much that takes out on people. And David McCormick is arguably also their best player, but I would say their second best player, maybe third. Marcus Garrett, their defender, who is really a wing, not even a 3-and-D guy because he can't really 3 it, but a wing, tremendous defender, maybe the best defender in college basketball. That's being asked to play the point. I mean, this is what happens when you are a blue blood program with a great basketball coach, and then you have an NCAA sanction hanging over your head. He hasn't been able to recruit at the same level for the last 2 years, and then these pieces don't fit because he hasn't been able to put them all together. Yet they were still a 3 seed.
Yep.
A 3 seed when everything's shitting the bed. And he went in, he got by Eastern Washington. I think part of why Eastern Washington looked so good was Kansas is battling a lot of shit. And Aruna didn't play in either one of the games. And if you look at his stats, you'll be like, I don't know what this is. He's the kind of guy that, like, in his 3rd or 4th year blossoms. I can tell you guys in and around that program will say he's going to play in the league, but it hasn't all clicked yet. He's a 6'8" guy that can shoot, but for some reason the game's still a little too fast. But usually there'd be a one and done with him. and a true league guard that they missed out on. Jeremiah Robinson Earl was, went to Bishop Miege High School here. His dad went to Kansas. They thought they had him. And at the last minute, he went to Villanova coming off a national championship where they pummeled Kansas in the Final Four. This team would look real different if Jeremiah Robinson Earl was on it. But, look, if you watch Kansas play, and, it's not local guys' job to watch every team play, right? And even if you're a national guy, you can't watch every team play all the time. But the name on the front of the jersey still says Kansas. This is not your traditional Kansas Bill Self team. They absolutely did not quit. I will object to that immensely, that the kids on Kansas quit. They didn't quit. USC is just loaded with athletes, loaded with length. And by the way, if you add up the recruiting rankings, the USC guys are supposed to be better. And Andy Enfield can coach. He did a great job switching back and forth between man and zone. Whenever Kansas, as soon as Kansas had a new plan to attack the zone, they went back to man. And Evan Mobley in most years would be the number 1 overall pick, right? The evolution of the guard has elevated them. 10 years ago, Mobley would be number 1 with a bullet. Nobody be close. Yep. Now, Cade Cunningham's going to go first. Suggs could push his way in front of him. But Evan Mobley defends guards at 7 feet tall. Like, come on. I mean, and it's a great program. Bill Self's a great coach. And one loss to a super talented team. That if USC wins it all, what are we going to say about that game?
It's a good point. I don't flip. I mean, it might be boring sports talk radio. I don't flip out over really anyone losing. These are 1-off or 2-off spots. You have bad nights, and a rip like that, a dig like that, like going after Kansas and annihilating them. A lot of that is most people around the country don't watch college basketball. I'm talking about the media. They don't watch college basketball all year long, and most importantly, they don't watch the West Coast. So actually, I heard, and I mentioned it on Cofield and Company today multiple times, and I even tried to tweet it as bait, but I think he's right now under strict restrictions to not respond because he's been in trouble so many times. But I heard Dockich on today with Mark Packer, Billy Packer's kid on Sirius XM, and Mark Packer tried to pull out like, well, we all didn't watch enough Pac-12. And I was like, I'm driving. I'm like, fuck off. All right. I'm in the West. We watch Pac-12. And then.
Well, I'm in the Central, and I don't go to bed till 1 or 2 in the morning. Right. And so I've watched plenty of Pac-12 and West Coast basketball.
You know the deal. Yeah. It's the same with football. Midwest, South, Northeast media. They don't watch enough of the West Coast stuff. So a lot of times it's overlooked. So there's talent in the Pac-12 conference. And, the other team that's out because they cheated their way out, Arizona's good. And like, this is like his developmental squad. They're good. Yeah. So that they had pretty intense competition in the Pac-12, and even a team that wasn't good. Oregon State starts shooting the 3-ball, and they freaking made it to the Sweet 16. So
listen, the Pac-12 is they're underrated. And Oregon, was battling COVID twice this year and still ended up being the outright league champion. Oregon's really good. They were underseeded. I do think USC was underseeded. And there's a reason to do it. Like, I think the committee misses on the West Coast for sure. I think West Coast does not get its credit unless you're like this phenomenal story in Gonzaga that can't be ignored. Or when Arizona or UCLA or somebody has a super team. But, USC has a top 3 pick. Isaiah Mobley's going to be a first-round pick. There's at least a couple of second-round picks on that team. And here's the other thing. Here's what I came away from that game. Andy Enfield can coach.
Yep.
Like, he can definitely recruit. He's smart enough to hire, the Mobley's dad.
Exactly. And what do I say all the time about there are teams that are now appearing in the mix with the Blue Bloods because they are recruiting at the same level. They're doing some of the things that you need to do. By the way, it's also why Southern Cal was part of the FBI's net and got in trouble. Oregon and USC and Arizona play the game the way you need to play the game. So does Gonzaga.
Well, how about Oregon State? I mean, Stevie Thompson is the father of Ethan Thompson. They're only he's a top 40 recruit, I think. Their leading scorer. And by the way, his Stevie Thompson Jr. also went there to Oregon State. And so, Stevie was hired. Stevie played at Syracuse. And when I was there, well, his senior year was my freshman year, and was a second-round pick in the league. And at one point was the CBA's all-time leading scorer. Anyway, he's on the staff, and his son Ethan is the star player. I mean, Listen, there's no rule against it. So, like, if you're like, oh, they hired the guys. Yeah, why didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, how much is Evan and Isaiah Mobley worth? I'd say $10 million to your program. So if it takes $500,000 to hire their dad, what are you fucking waiting for?
Yep. So yeah, I'm not going to kill Kansas over that. You mentioned it at the beginning. They're dealing with being under the specter of an investigation, and they were a little bit down this year, but still had a very good year.
On a second place finish, maybe it was third. I can't remember. I think it was second in the Big 12, and we're a number 3 seed. That's the down year.
Yep.
That's the down year.
I'll tell you, Dockich, I thought, had an interesting take because he was talking about the Big Ten.
I doubt it.
No, he actually did. He's an idiot and he's a horse's ass and he's obnoxious. But he was talking about the Big Ten and the coaches' egos, that they're so defensive minded. They're so, like Izzo, so hardcore. He wants to scream at guys for missing one assignment. And Dockich is like, it's an offensive game now. You got to keep your best players on the floor. You're trying to send a message and you're keeping guys out for 5 and 6 and 8 possessions so you can scream at them. Get them on the floor. And the goal of Big Ten teams needs to be scoring 75 points a game, 80 points a game, not 57, and being super defensive. And then we had a guy on, John Crispin, who does ESPN analysis, who played at UCLA and Penn State, and he added to it, and he's like, listen, the coaches in the Big Ten are under pressure to win the Big Ten. So their teams are built to win in the Big Ten. And then when they get to the tournament, they can't play as wide open as other teams. And I've said this for the last couple of years. The change is coming. The 6-11, 4 and 5 doesn't match up well against 4 out, 1 in. So you better make the change. But that's the great test. Do you want to win your conference, or do you play up-tempo basketball, maybe finish 7th in the Big Ten? You can still get in to the big dance, and then you have a chance to be more competitive and, I guess, interchangeable so that you can play big basketball and smaller basketball.
All right, so a lot to unpack there. One, I hate to admit it, but yeah, that actually is a good point by Dakich. We'll start with Tom Izzo. Yeah, Tom Izzo, I think, is getting old. Boeheim's old, and he's a crotchety ass with the media, and that does not help his program. But he's not old with his kids, and he's not old. Like the 4 fouls, sit your guy thing. I mean, I went off on this. I don't know how much people paid attention to the Missouri game. But with 4 minutes to go, down 1, Jeremiah Tillman got his 4th foul. Konzo Martin sat him for 2 minutes, and they went from 1 down to 8 down. With 14:40 to go, Michael Dolezaj, with West Virginia surging, got his 4th foul. He came back in with 12:40 to go and played the rest of the way and didn't foul out. By the way, Jeremiah Tillman didn't foul out. So there are things that –
Can I drop in for a second too?
Yeah.
That's also the benefit of playing the zone, that you can protect kids a little bit when they get in foul trouble.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but also I hate saying this, but so coaching games, right? Little league basketball, right? And I have a kid get a 3rd foul, and every parent in the stands is telling me it's the 3rd foul, right? It's early in the second half, and they tell me it's the 3rd foul, and I'm like, and I don't take the kid out. Who's 3? Your coach, it's 3. The ref will even come over and go, Coach, it's 3. Well, first of all, it's a 24-minute game, not a 40-minute game, so spare me, right? I don't have that far to go. And here, what I believe is the on-base percentage of basketball is the sitting people with 4 fouls. There's this idea that, I can mystically, through my crystal ball, pick the spots where they would pick up a foul, sit them then, and put them back in, but then sit them when they would pick up a foul. Bullshit. You don't know when it's coming. Leave them in the game. Sit them down, talk to them, then put them back in the game. Because if you lose the game and your player with 4 fouls that you set down, Bruce Weber's killed K-State with this a number of times. In the tournament 2 years ago, his last tournament run, he left his best player sitting on the bench forever because he didn't want to pick up a 3rd foul in the first half. Then he got a 3rd and he didn't want to get a 4th, and it ruined his team. If you sit the player and the player doesn't foul out and you lose, you're a dumbass, right? So I'll play. You play them until they foul out, and then you go, okay, now here's what we're gonna do. But to Izzo, I had a guy actually get on me because I chastised Izzo for grabbing the kid by the arm and whipping him around, right? And he's like, that's how you handle kids. I go, really? Did they win? Well, that's not no bullshit. Your job is to win. You're in the get it
Yep.
right business. So
Yeah.
if you're going to tell me that's the way to handle the kid, then it better have motivated him, and the team better have gone on to win. They didn't. He already had one player on the court jumping his shit, and you have to seek him out and in public, in front of the cameras and in front of the fans, chastise him again. He's already lit up. Like you're an idiot. Tom Izzo is an idiot. Tom Izzo, could I coach Michigan State better than Tom Izzo? Of course not. But he is wrong in that moment. And it may be a sign that the game is passing him by. Is Bob Knight right to choke a kid? No. Did Bob Knight piss a drop in the NCAA tournament his last 13 years there? No. And for 13 years, did people say, Bob Knight's won 3 championships. He knows more than you. He's more equipped. Was he more equipped?
Yeah.
No.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't more equipped. The game had passed him by. And when Tom Izzo goes at those players and Draymond Green, who is like, what is he? Winning. I love all these people. Draymond Green says that's just how things are, Michigan State. If Draymond Green's your voice of reason, you're shitting me, right? You're shitting me. Well, he's a great player. How many great players have been world-class assholes as people?
Right.
Like many.
So
right?
so we're giving Tom Izzo credit for turning out an incredibly undisciplined Draymond Green who can take down the team with one of his temper tantrums at any moment. Is that
Yes.
that's one of the guys to hold up?
Who can divide a championship team by going after the star player who's infinitely better than him?
Ruined a fucking final for the Warriors, who should have won every.
Got kicked out of a game, yes,
Yep.
and
that changed the series.
That's the guy we're quoting.
I think Izzo's awesome, but I think this managerial style.
I think he was awesome. I don't know that he is anymore.
Of this fire and brimstone stuff is stupid, and to manage every kid on the team the same way and scream at them all the time, it's dumb. And I think it actually does apply to the workplace. You don't manage everyone around you the same way. And I also throw it out all the time. As a normal employee at a company, how would you react if your boss screamed at you all the time? Now, it might work for you, but if it doesn't work for others, you're going to be like, pussy.
No, Steve, those are intense situations. Yeah. It's what you got to do.
You know what it shows me? And just like it's the same rant I did time and time again with Bobby Knight, that these guys sit there and talk about dedication and discipline, and they're at times the least disciplined guy on the bench.
Yes. Wait till you get to the locker room.
Yep.
And then talk about what went wrong. I don't think game time is the time. Like, if you want to bust some ass, you bust ass in practice. You tear down in practice when you have time to build back up. But you tear a kid down in a game, I don't think he comes back.
I don't think it's the case for every player. I don't know. Like I said, the regular workplace, I don't know if I got mother effed all the time, I probably would run through a wall and I would, work really angry and I would be productive. But that doesn't mean everyone around me is going to take it that way and be productive.
I just, so to that point, yeah, I think Izzo sitting guys down to prove a point. Like this is where I think, and I know this isn't the perfect year to say this, but Calipari lives through mistakes. And Calipari gets on his kids, but he doesn't try to humiliate them. He doesn't try to physically, encroach upon their space. He doesn't like to challenge them physically. Whip them around. You're going to listen to me. Like, they've heard your shit, man. Let it resonate. Right? And they've heard your shit all through practice, and it didn't work today. You think screaming at him again when he already feels bad is the right way to do it? And I'm listen, I raised my voice in practices for Little League basketball. I'm not saying you got to treat everybody like flowers, but there's a right and a wrong way, and every kid's different. There's some kids you challenge. There's some kids you got to love up. There's some kids you got to support, right? Like there's a psychology to it, and that was just wrong. And I had a guy, a guy called me a moron, all these things, and I'm like, gotcha, or something. One word back, he goes, oh, real thoughtful answer. How disrespectful is that? I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wait a minute. This guy grabs a kid, takes him around. I say he's out of line, and because I go, got you, I somehow, and you call me a moron, and I need to figure it out or get your shit together, whatever it was. And then this, I don't like snowflake, right? You're going to shit on me, and then I go, gotcha, and you're offended? You got to be kidding me. I'll play zone. That's not true.
How can he not be in approval of zone when Boeheim does what he does?
Yeah, right? I mean,
the matchup zone is brilliant.
Trust me. People
go against it.
I lost the championship game for the CYO City Championship, and
zone.
I should have gone to zone. I didn't go to zone. I
Did
relied on our man-to-man, and we were outgunned. We were outgunned, but I should have gone zone. There's no excuses. I'm not saying we would have won, but we'd have done better, and I didn't zone up, so it's on me.
And Tony says, as a varsity coach, I feel that the way the kids act and play is a reflection of the way you carry yourself.
Agreed, 100%. Like, it's always your fault. It's always the coach's fault, right? You either didn't pick the right kids, you didn't reach the right kids. You had picked the right kids, you didn't reach them. You didn't strategize it. I mean, listen, sometimes it's just talent, right? The line in Blue Chips where Nick Nolte's like, the best coaching job I did, it was last year when we were 17 and 15. Yeah, some days that's it. Like, yeah, I got some kids who bought in. We played hard. We beat 7 teams we shouldn't have beat, and we lost to no one, that wasn't infinitely better than us. Sometimes that's what you got. That's what you got to work with. In Kansas, that's what Bill Self had. And Bill Self went out and made it work. Kansas couldn't – they're a small team. Go look at their shooting percentages. They went 9-1 in their last 10, and they only shot 35% or better twice. And they're all guards. Like, that guy can coach. Like, not to go back to that. And I can't remember. You had about 3 other things I was going to get to, but now I'm sidetracked. So,
I was just talking about playing traditional 2 bigs like a lot of the Big Ten teams do. Because to win in the Big Ten, you absolutely have to have at least one guy who's going to play like 27 minutes, who's 6'10", 240. But I don't know that you need 2. And a lot of teams in the Big Ten have like 4 of them. So then the entire conference cannibalizes itself playing power basketball instead of having a couple of outliers where it's 4 out, 1 in, and teams are trying to bomb threes and bring the bigs out to play defense and open up the lane.
So here's one of the things I think would be interesting is playing bigs to just be big is bad, right? The stiffs, they're 7-1 and 6-11. And if you look at the scorecard at the end of the night and they're 6 and 5, 6 points, 5 boards, 6 points, 5 boards each, and they each played 36 minutes, you're a dumbass. Right? There are a lot of big guys that run around and they don't get the board because they can't move. They're stiff. Mm-hmm. Like, can they block a shot if you drive right at their face? Yes.
Well, the problem is you have to come up with defensive numbers. What happens when they're drawn to the perimeter? What happens with the 3 ball? And are they just getting destroyed on the pick and roll?
So here's a couple of things. So one, being big just to be big is stupid, right? Mm-hmm. You need your 5 best. But the problem is I think most coaches are impressions of the coaches who coach them. Like Konzo Martin is an impression of Gene Cady. And who's the offspring of Gene Cady? It's Bruce Weber at K-State, Konzo Martin at Missouri, and Matt Painter at Purdue. There's probably some others out there, but off the top of my head, those are the ones that I know. Matt Painter made 1 Elite 8, I think, and has a few Sweet 16s, but has never scared the championship.
Yeah.
Bruce Weber went to the championship game with Bill Self's players, but has never scared it otherwise. And Konzo Martin has 1 Sweet 16 run, otherwise has not won another NCAA tournament game. He's 0 for 3 in his other NCAA tournaments, right? Once at Tennessee, once at Cal, and twice at Missouri. Like, that doesn't work. And I watch Konzo Martin. I don't know what his offensive game plan is. He preaches defense. They don't really play that great at defense, right? Like, coaches are beholden to what they've been told. Like, there is not enough creative thinking. Mike D'Antoni is a creative thinker that said, we're going to score. Mm-hmm. We're going to go get it done. And by the way, Mike D'Antoni is really coaching the Brooklyn Nets right now. They have immense talent, but he is, Steve Nash is like good angel on his shoulder. Like, he's on his bench, and D'Antoni knows offense. This is how we've always done it. Bullshit is unbelievable. Like, how long did football stay in the dark ages, pitching it to the tailback for 2 yards and not throwing it downfield? If you're like, well, that's how it was played then. Why was it played then? Well, because they were fucking dumb. Okay. Question asked, answer given.
Yep.
They did not have the ability to understand the value of a 25-yard rocket down the middle of the field. That speed, cutting like this in different directions and the right receiver routes, and then a guy that can spin it in there is infinitely better than pitching it to a guy with 4 or 5 speed to butt heads at 2 yards across the line of scrimmage. Like, greatest game ever played was like It's Notre Dame, Michigan State. It's Oklahoma, Nebraska from the 60s and 70s. Go watch that game on film. It is unwatchable.
Yep.
You will be like, what is this shit? It looks more like rugby. Rugby's more wide open now than that shit was. Right? So the biggest mistake that coaches make and that fans make is thinking wherever we are today in sports is the finish line.
Right.
Right? So 20 years ago, you thought you were there, but there was still 20 years of race to run. There's still 100 years of race to run. The good coaches are the one that see where are we going from here? Where's 20 years from now? Andy Reid told people in Philadelphia, if we're going to have a running back, he's got to be able to catch the ball. And they told him he was a dipshit. He had to establish the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
Basketball, just putting bigs to have bigs is stupid. But they got to be uber athletes. I saw this, Kansas has to recruit more shooters. Kansas has to recruit more athletes. Well, first of all, they usually have better athletes. They do have to recruit more shooters. I think that is a flaw for Bill Self. But where's Nikolai Jokic on the athlete scale? He's a tremendously skilled big man. He will score in the post. The low post score is not dead. He'll score down in the blocks.
Yeah.
He's tremendous. All the up and around and spin and twist and then up and under. And he's got every trick in the bag. Every old man trick in the bag. And then he'll also knock down a three on you. And he'll also pump fake and then kick to a guy who's cutting. He has every skill set. And he can dribble. He brings the freaking ball up for the Nuggets sometimes.
These Euros and this FIBA ball. Yeah. Yes. If
you want to play two bigs, if you have two Jokic's, let's dance.
Right.
But Jokic and Manute Bol, that's not even fair because Manute could at least play defense. Jokic and Matt Geiger. Do you remember Matt Geiger's ass?
Sure.
I'm trying to think of another stiff guy that played a lot of minutes.
Soren, I'll tell you, I used to go I would go see New Jersey Nets games, right? And I remember going to a game and the Milwaukee Bucks were playing the Nets. And I'm watching and I'm trying to learn basketball. I'm 13 years old and I'm like, what is this offense they're running where Paul McKeskey runs across midcourt and stands at midcourt while the other four run the offense? And then they would be like, all right, we're going to change it up. Randy Brewer, you go in there and stand at midcourt on the offense and then just charge towards the basket to get an offensive rebound. They were so bad. They're like, just get the frig out of the way, dude. And that was the offense.
But then that team also had, by the way, Jack Sikma, who would stand outside and shoot.
Well, Sikma was he was a really good player. I'm talking about size to have size.
Yeah, but so I wanted to look it up. I wanted to make sure. Hang on.
Alton Lister was another guy for the Bucks who was like that. It was like, well, what are we doing here? But then they had great guards.
Stand up for the honor. You know where Paul McKeskey went to school?
I'm blanking.
Rock, Chalk, J.
Is that right? Yeah. There are some amazing whites in history who and were actually good in college, and you're like, my God, they were terrible in the NBA.
So I want you to know that Paul McKeskey played 14 years.
Yep.
No, 12. Would it be 11? 12 years in the NBA.
Yep.
And he could shoot he was actually. Let me see if I'm right about this. I think I'm right. Let me double check here. I'm not right. I was going to say he was one of the first stretch centers, but he made 11 threes, so I'm going to digress. He would chuck from a distant mid-range.
The big
and he was bald, had knee braces, and a belly.
Oh,
he was
bad body guy.
He makes guys like me and you want to get out and think we can make the league.
Yeah. He was like a thin Billy Paltz. If you remember him, he was another one with a giant gut who played for
who?
Billy Paltz, I think was his
Where'd
name.
He play?
Shit, man. College. He may have been a blue blood guy too.
Spell the last name.
Paul TZ. I think I have it right. Unless I'm having a brain fart. So we both sit here and look stuff up.
Yeah, right. It's good times. Good video. Good video.
St. John's. St. John's he went to.
St. John's.
Actually, New Jersey guy too, and his nickname was
God, in the 60s? Are you really 10 years older than I think you are?
He played into the. What are you talking about? He played from 70 to 85.
Played at St. John from 68 to 70.
Okay, well, he played the NBA from 70 to freaking 85. He played until he was like 37 years old.
God, I don't remember Billy Paultz. He played that long.
I just remember, I've always had the fascination with the oddities, and especially the fat guys in sports.
Yes.
And he was like your classic beer belly guy playing in the NBA.
Dude, you had to love, was it Abilene Christian, number 4, who looked like he was 6'4", like 278 or something?
I love mid-major schools because that's where those guys land, because they have big games, but they don't fit the mold of being 6'9". They're great, but there's a lot of times they're a pain in the ass to cover.
Well, you can't move them. You're not you're used to all these lean athletes, and all of a sudden here comes Fatty.
Yep.
And yeah. Anyway, I digress.
All right, let's make some picks. You ready?
I love this. McKeskey ran over his own foot at KU. I remember that story. I'd forgotten it. Joe Giog put that one out there. That's right. I forgot about that.
That's awesome. I love it.
Paul McKeskey, Jack Sick. But who else did they have on that Buck team? They had like this collection. Didn't they have Alton Lister?
Yeah, Alton Lister. Yeah, I mentioned him earlier. It was. I mean, they had Bob Lanier for a long time.
Larry Kristoviak was on that team.
Yeah, and Kristoviak came into the league with like 2 knee braces. Like he had torn every knee he could tear, and he was such a good player in college. At Montana? Was he at Montana? But by the way, if you want to, did you want to hit some of the college basketball hirings? Because Utah is open. I do. Did Utah get filled today?
Yeah, if they did. It's news to me. I've been doing a Formula One fantasy league, Steve. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Let's get back into that. Yeah, the other Coach K got fired, so we'll see if he lands somewhere soon.
Did Utah make a hire?
I know the favorite for the job is a former Utah player, and he's a Utah Jazz assistant. So I don't know if he took the job or not. I should know that. You're right. I didn't get to look at that today.
Oh, I can.
Nothing up yet. Alex Jensen is the as of 11 hours ago, he was the favorite, and he's interviewing. So,
do you like the Utah job?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good job.
I think it's a pretty good job too. I agree. I think it's harder if Enfield's going to stay at USC. Like I saw the question about Indiana. So let me ask, the Utah job is better certainly when USC usually sucks.
Right.
And when UCLA is not good. And when Arizona's under investigation, like that's why he got fired. It's like this was a time to be good in the Pac-12. So if you're Indiana, do you call Andy Enfield?
Sure. Why not? Yeah. Yes.
Do you hire him? Do you hire him or do you hire Porter Moser at Loyola?
That's a tough choice. I thought you were going to give me like a really big name who's more name than substance.
Like who? Give me an example. We'll throw him into the mix.
Well, I mean, there was a weird rumor out there. It was actually an accurate report. Like this love affair with Thad Matta coming back when he's not healthy. There was a whole weird thing the other day. Supposedly he failed a physical, and they couldn't give him the job. And then Indiana's like, "What are you talking about? A physical?" And but that's a big name that's out there. I think Enfield's amazing. So, but I think Porter Moser is very good. I think he'd be able to recruit. I think he's a good X's and O's guy. But I don't think they want a guy like that. I think they are going to go with someone with a name, and if they can get Chris Beard, then yeah, make a run at Chris Beard.
Well, if you can get Chris Beard, you hire Chris Beard. I think Chris Beard is the successor to Bill Self if he is just going to man the ship to the edge of the troubled waters of the investigation. Bill Self will not leave. He said this. He will not leave until all the sanctions and everything are done. He's not going to abandon ship. But I think the whole process, he's either going to go Jerry Tarkanian and fight it legally. I mean, he's lawyered up and he's ready to fight his own fight. Right. And he's either going to go Jerry Tarkanian and be fighting this for a long time, or he's going to be like, I don't need this shit. He's going to bail once Kansas is done with the sanctions.
Right.
And I asked him once, and I thought Bob Huggins was going to be the answer. I said, who are you closest to amongst the other Big 12 coaches? Because I know him and Bob Huggins are good friends. And he said, Chris Beard. I was like, oh, wow. And Chris Beard's got a lot of qualities of Bill Self in the sense that he schmoozes the program, he schmoozes the money guys, the boosters, he coaches his team, X's and O's, and he recruits well, right? He recruits beyond the limits of Texas Tech. And so I think if he got to Kansas, I think Chris Beard is Bill Self at Illinois, is Chris Beard at Texas Tech. So I think Kansas, if they had to have a guy like, if I'm the AD at Kansas, which they don't have one, and I got 5 names, number 1 with a bullet is not Billy Donovan. It's not the Celtics coach.
Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens, because I think those are somewhat pipe dreams. They clearly like the NBA and not having to recruit. It's Chris Beard. That's number 1 with a bullet. And I think every blue blood out there, if Mike Krzyzewski quit, you should hire Chris Beard. If Roy Williams quit, you should hire Chris Beard. So if Indiana doesn't hire him, they're incompetent. Now, should Beard take the job? I think this is a great point. Wouldn't touch the Indiana job. Their expectations are so off the charts. They're not Duke. They're not North Carolina. They're not Kansas. Right? Maybe they can be made that again, but they are not that now.
If I were Beard, I would wait for the Texas job. It's going to open up eventually. I'll give you the.
If you're Beard, would you take the Texas job or the Kansas job? Because Bill Self had a choice of the Oklahoma State job or the Kansas job. And Gary Parrish told us if Bill Self, let's say the Davidson kid hits the shot in the Elite Eight and eliminates Kansas in 08, and he doesn't win that national championship. And it was that offseason after winning the championship that T. Boone Pickens in Oklahoma State threw a bunch of money at him, $5 million when he was making like 1.8 or 2. And Kansas said, we'll match. But they said we'll match with him, hoisting a championship. And Gary Parrish said if Davidson wins that game, Bill Self's at Oklahoma State. Maybe he's not still at Oklahoma State, but he leaves for the 09 season, right? So it was that theoretically, if Gary's right, and I tend to think he is, because I know Gary's pretty wired in, like that to me is how close it is between success and failure.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Kansas, we're not ready to go. So would you touch the Indiana job with the expectations that they have? If you're Chris Beard, or would you wait for?
I would wait.
Because I think Carolina, Kansas, even Duke, I think a lot of places you can recruit better than Indiana. The biggest misnomer I hear about Indiana is everyone is like, you got so much talent. Would you stop? There's like 1.5 million people in the state of Indiana. They act like, 15 of the 30 best players in the NBA grew up in Indiana.
Yeah.
Like, spare me.
Yeah. Now, who should Indiana make a run at? And I think he's on the list, but he's certainly not going to. I don't think he's going to pass like all the checks of being like I'm not going to say a clean guy, but whatever. The guy likes to live. Is Eric Musselman is an awesome coach. He's awesome, and he gets it now, and he'll put together a team every year that might be a new team. They turn over every 2 years. Well, he is a magician on the transfer market, and he plays a fun brand of basketball. And going back to what I was saying about the Big Ten being all stodgy and all this power player stuff, he would F up the Big Ten in terms of style of play.
Well, and to go back to that point, and how about Nate Oates at Alabama? I mean, that's my dream. When Boeheim steps down, I won't call for Boeheim's exit until he's ready to go. He's earned that for Syracuse people. But Nate Oates, having coached at Buffalo and been able to get higher level talent than Buffalo deserves, I think he'll do the same at Syracuse, which you better be able to do because Syracuse doesn't really. We're a one coach program, which we talked about last time. But I'm with you. And to the point about everyone else in the Big Ten plays this way. So play the other way.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Like the Knicks were successful playing bully ball because no one else was playing it. Right? The Pistons were successful, the bad boys, because no one else was playing that way. Once everyone plays that way, you need to go the other direction. No, do you think Michigan's playing that way?
No, I actually think Michigan is starting to be the outlier.
Agreed.
The fact that they have one big, Hunter Dickinson's good. I think it does slow him down at times, but he's good in the low post. But the Wagner kid is smaller than his brother, and he's really more of a stretch 4, and he's thin and he's athletic.
He's a college stretch 4. I don't even know that he's a stretch 4 in the league.
Oh no, he's a small forward. So, but he's big enough that he can rebound, and they've got another. They don't. You notice most times they're not. They have another big man who's like 6'9", 250, but they don't play him and Dickinson together, and they have mostly guys on the wing, who are 6'3" to 6'7", who are athletic, and they've got a great point guard, the transfer from the Ivy League. So yeah, no, I think that's why Michigan made it the furthest. I don't know. Illinois is interesting. I don't know what happened to them because
they had a bad day against a really well-coached team.
Yep.
Which Porter Moser, he got fired, at Southern Illinois?
Illinois State. He wasn't good. And he actually was not very good at Loyola. And that kind of, at the beginning, and that creates the pause with him. It's like, well, is this just a good group he's had over about 5 years that's working? Or, is this guy.
It's a totally different team other than Krutwig.
Yeah, from the Final Four, in 18?
Yeah.
18?
Because there were 2 KC kids that aren't on that team anymore, Blue Valley North kids.
Yeah.
One went straight there, one went to Iowa State and then transferred there. Because I interviewed him at the Jayhawk Hardwood Invitational, an AAU event here a couple of years ago, and talked about recruiting Kansas City and, what he's done. I mean, he is and Parrish said it today with us, like he's a very interesting – there usually aren't guys that are having this kind of success that got fired at some point. There's Kelvin Sampson, different kind of firing.
Right.
Him. How many other people got fired? Eddie Sutton got fired at Kentucky because of allegations or proof of wrongdoing by the program. I don't know that he directly was, but he got fired. Came back to go to a Final Four at Oklahoma State. How many people get fired and go on to great success?
Right. Doesn't happen often, especially at the lower level.
Yeah.
You expect them to at least be 17, 18, 19 wins. Let's do some picks here because I've got all the odds up. They may not be completely fresh, but this is from the Westgate. So
can I get some fresh odds?
I know, right?
Fresh out of the
they're close.
Microwave.
Sure. Baylor 6.5 against Villanova.
I don't know if I'm buying into the. I turned in my bracket and had Villanova losing to the 12, whoever it was. And then I was doing my evaluation for my player pool, and I'm like,
Winthrop. That was big.
Winthrop.
Winthrop, Seth Davis upset pick.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, you know what? Like Villanova, I know they lost. Yeah, they finished the game off when the point guard Colin Gillespie went down. Right in that it, Colin Gillespie. When he went down, and then they won that one. Then they lost their last 2 regular season games and lost a 2-point game to Georgetown, which, by the way, I loved when everyone was on Georgetown snob. Spare me, okay? Spare me. But I'm like, it takes some time. When you totally change the lineup, and there's no doubt they'd be better with Gillespie, maybe bringing, Robinson Earl onto the point gives them a different dynamic, and maybe they're a better team. Maybe they could have been better with Gillespie off the ball. But, there's an element of, them reinventing themselves. I always say when a player comes back that's been hurt in the NBA, one of the best things is, when a team's been playing well and then, a star player or a really good player comes back from injury, you're like, oh, shit, they're even better. We got to lay the points. Bullshit. Take the other team. Because chemistry matters in basketball maybe more than any other sport, right? Every individual on the court is 20% of the equation. No other sport is that true. And so when you change the dynamics of how the ball moves, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And so the fact that they lost, I was like, you know what? Like Arizona, when they won the championship in whatever year they won it, with Bibby and Miles Simon and Jason Terry and that group, they lost their last
maybe.
Yeah, they lost their last 4 going into the tournament. Like this, you got to be hot going in. That's bullshit. And I was like, I wonder if Villanova's like that. They have a great coach in Jay Wright. They still have talent. And so I'll take Villanova in the points.
Okay.
Where are you?
I'm going the other way. My picks are up. I agree with CJ Cards. I'm going Baylor and Oral Roberts by
I'll take Nova in the points. Eat shit, Steve.
All right. I think they're running the gas here.
I think Arkansas, or you don't touch it. Come on, stop.
I'm taking ORU. I think Arkansas. I like Miles. Yeah. Well, I think Oral Roberts is good. They've got two really good players, and Arkansas kind of plays and they're a little up and down. So yeah, I think it's actually going to be a tight game.
Well, first of all, I personally like dogs or no more than a 3-point favorite. So,
right.
I would not put money on Arkansas when it comes to basketball. dogs are no more than a 3-point favorite because I hate the garbage baskets that come along with basketball. So I wouldn't play this, but I still think I felt like Arkansas was really good all year, so I'll ride Arkansas.
All right. Next up, let's see. Creighton, Gonzaga, Oregon, USC. Okay. I think Gonzaga is going to freaking roll Creighton. And because I think Gonzaga is awesome, and I don't think Creighton is a great team. I also don't have a ton of respect for the Big Catholic and the quality of basketball coming out of that conference this year, Big East, whatever they want to call it. It's mid-major conference, and Oregon is going to win against USC. So why on that one? Why on that one?
Yeah,
we will get to see the big versus small matchup. And I know you said that Evan Mobley can cover guards. Oregon has some really good
strength. I can't cover all of them. I got your back on Oregon.
Yeah, I like Oregon. I like the collection of talent. And Dana Altman, Enfield's a good coach. I think Dana Altman's a top 5 coach in the country. He's great, and it took him a little while. They had a pause. They're all transfers. They finally got healthy at the point guard position with Richardson playing point guard. So I don't know why everyone is anti-Oregon in the spot, but they got plenty of talent. I think they play better defense, so I think they're going to win.
I think everyone's anti-Oregon because USC had the most impressive win maybe in this tournament. Like, it's not if you know college basketball, but for most people, it's like, wow, they beat Kansas. Doesn't matter what seed they were. And so there's an overreaction. So I agree with you. Oregon is a team that battled COVID, I think, twice and had other injuries on top of it and still won the Pac-12. And now they're healthy. Yeah, I'll take Oregon. Creighton Gonzaga, let's say you play the Zags. Yeah, I mean, either ride the train or get off the rails. Like, don't stand in front of it. So I don't love it, right? But I think you take Gonzaga. I think somewhere in this tournament they're not going to win by 10, though.
All right.
25 straight they've won by double digits is why that's significant if people don't follow college basketball.
Florida State, Michigan is really significant. This is a good. I mean, significant because it's in the Sweet 16, but I think Florida State can turn this into a rock fight and make it kind of ugly. I don't know if I'm picking them. This is kind of a toss-up game for me. It's a tough one at 3.
I think Florida State always seems to underachieve their talent, but what Florida State guys killing it in the pros, right? In some ways, they get guys that are ranked fairly high, pretty high. They come and they look impressive at Florida State. Then everyone says that the team disappointed. Then they go to the pros and do what? What Seminole's been great in the pros?
Does it matter here? Why does it matter?
Well, my point is this, is that like there's this impression that they're this uber talented team and Leonard Hamilton pisses it away.
Oh, okay.
And so my point is that I think Leonard Hamilton actually coaches them better than he gets credit for, right? He gets credit for the talent he gets, but I think he brings the some parts. He's kind of thought of as like, Jerry Tarkanian at Fresno. A lot of really guys that were really talented, but he never really won a lot, right? To take it to a West Coast side. But I think actually he might do a better job than people realize. I like Fresno State. Florida State. I'll take the Seminoles. I like this team. I think there's a lot of good pieces there, and I think Michigan peaked early. I'll take Florida State.
UCLA and Alabama is the best.
Who'd you take?
I didn't take anyone.
So
I don't have a lean or a like. I guess I would lean towards Michigan, but it's not. I'm not betting the game. I'll bet it in game.
Well, give a lean at least. Jesus, why am I picking every game and you're just sitting there?
By the way, people who bet mostly sides before games, to me it's a waste. So I think in-game betting, because I think in-game betting is where it's at, and your goal should be to get good numbers in game and potentially get a middle. And with college basketball, there's such big swings that it happens.
No, I think that's good advice because we've got the Kansas State legislature is pushing hard to jam through a gambling law, a sports betting law. And so I think that's good for people here. I've never been an in-game guy, but it's because it's never been readily available at my fingertips. I'm not sitting around the casino all day.
Yeah.
So
you'll like it. You'll like it.
Well, based on your addiction, I think I probably will.
Yeah, I like playing. I didn't say I win all the time. I will say that so far, my little strategy of I think I told you right on the podcast that as soon as it came down that Kansas and Virginia had COVID issues, and with Villanova having Gillespie off the floor and playing like ass and getting a lower seed, I bet all three to win the national championship. So I got Kansas at 35-1. I think Virginia at 40 and Villanova at 45. They were actually available even higher than that. And then I bet against them in the first round and the second round, which is a little bit early, but obviously I've made out already because Kansas is out.
Already made your money, yeah.
Virginia got knocked out, knowing that I have a win at the end if they did have the miracle and make the run all the way. So now all I've got left is Villanova. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do here with Villanova.
I would have waved you off Kansas because they were not good enough. And I said that at the time. But Villanova was a team that people thought, and Kansas was ranked number 3 in the country at one point. But I'm going to tell you, you could look at them and say, no. But Villanova has pieces to where you could be like, I'm not saying they're the number 3 team in the country, but they're good enough to win it all.
Yeah.
That was a smart bet on your part.
Well, it's worked out. It's worked out so far.
The combination of bets was very smart.
It's worked out so far because, 2 of them didn't make it to the Sweet 16. So, I was guaranteed winner.
Even if you just rocked and fired those 3 to win it all, there's no value in betting somebody who's 3-1.
No. You should.
So those were good bets each individually.
If you monitor throughout the season, if you think, there's going to be some teams that you bet during the season that are flopping and will just continue to flop. But there are times there are good teams, and especially in a COVID year, where the odds might have been 15-1, 18-1 to start the season, and they drop down to 60 and 75-1, and you roll the dice on them and hope they make it to the tournament, and maybe they make a little run, and then you can get some value betting the other side. So, anyway,
I'll pick Alabama.
Yeah, me too. I think this is where it runs out for UCLA.
I agree,
and I'm intrigued by the number. I'm not an over player, and this is a pretty high total, but UCLA plays no defense. Mick Cronin wants to play defense. He doesn't have the guys right now. And we know Alabama. Alabama was actually a big part of that conversation earlier today with that John Crispin guy, because he was pointing to Nate Oates as kind of that new age coach, where Nate Oates is like, you know what? There are going to be games where we're going to give up 85, and our defense just isn't good enough. But consistently, you are going to have to match us in getting 85 and match us when we're shooting 27 threes. So good luck.
I think his defense is better than given credit for when you look at his tempo.
Yeah.
Right? No, he's not holding somebody to 46 a game, but they're going up and down the court. They're letting the threes fly. He's getting a high volume of shot from distance with guys that can get it. He's developed Herb Jones, right? One of the things Jared Sutton said to us the other day, who's an NBA scout, played at Mizzou. Used to work for SEC Network. He's like, listen, the one thing every coach can control is player development.
Yeah.
And I think there's been great player development. Herb Jones was not on anyone's radar screen. And you see his who's stopping him going down the lane?
He's a good player. And you know what? That was part of the discussion too, that Alabama plays, good enough defense that works with a high octane offense. And the funny thing is on Ken Palm's numbers, the adjusted D numbers, the number 3 team in the country in defense is Alabama.
Yeah. No, they're a great defensive team. When you put it all together, and then they shoot a lot of threes and are really good at knocking them down. They get good 3 looks. I think Alabama, there's a chance we look back, kind of like when Florida won the first of its 2 back-to-backs as a 3 seed, and everybody goes, how the hell was that a 3 seed?
Yeah.
Right? I don't think it's going to be to that extent because I don't see the quantity of pros, but there's not the quantity of pros that Florida had in the 90s on any – or not 90s. Was it – when did they win? 06? 07? When did Florida win their chance? 06 and 07? Whatever it was.
I think you're on the range. Brady.
Look at the range. Yeah. There's not the quantity of pros on any team now.
And here's the region that we're all watching. Here's the region.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon State and Loyola. That number seems big to me.
Which is why I like Loyola.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't, because maybe it's an overlay, because everyone's like, oh, Loyola is just going, but that's who Loyola, it's what they do. They go to Final Fours. And in reality, like, the best player on the floor plays for Oregon State, and Ethan Thomas. So yeah, I'm but it's still like Oregon State's been impressive. It's still 6.5. I mean, seed wise, 9 against the 12. I don't know about that, man. If I had to make a pick, I'd take Oregon State. I think everyone's on Loyola. I'll take Oregon State in the points.
All right.
Loyola probably wins by like 2 or 3, but I'll take Oregon State. You?
I'll probably take Oregon State, but again, it's not a super strong play. But I'm not laying 6.5 with Loyola.
Right.
Here, and the other thing to consider is look at the total. If the game is expected to be in the 60s, you're going to cover 7. You're going to win by 7, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be 63-56. I don't know. All right. Well, first of all, you know what this game should be, and this would have been, I will drop an F-bomb here, fucking awesome this week.
Yes. Trust me, Curtis was rooting so much for Syracuse Rutgers.
God damn it. God damn it.
And they were right there.
Dude, they outplayed them. They were smoking them. They had the game, and then I again, I've mentioned the time on my show a bunch of times. I looked up at 5:51, and Rutgers comes across with I think they were up 8 or 9 at that point, and they're holding it at midcourt, starting to drain clock. I'm like, what are you doing? No. And then just everything went wrong for them. Turnovers, bad breaks. Their big guy saves a ball from going out of bounds, tries to throw it down on a Houston player, overthrows him. They missed on an alley-oop when the big man could have just come down and just finished with a layup. The guards got a little sloppy. And I'll tell you this, for Kansas fans, if you're laughing at me as a Rutgers fan, right? Quentin Grimes, holy shit. He's pretty good, and he can shoot from deep. He made a 3. I mean, that was a killer, as they really started making shots, and the Giroux kid was heroic, dealing with the hip injury. Grimes is really – and that you watch that, and you're like, yeah, I know why that guy was at Kansas and why, he's a Kansas-level player. He's awesome.
Bryce Thompson was a number 21 recruit, I think, this year. Didn't do much for Kansas. Josh Selby was the number 1, 2, or 3 recruit, depending upon who you look at. Didn't do shit for Kansas. Quentin Grimes came and left. That guard spot, there's been a number of highly touted guys. Wayne Selden. When is it? Or Josh Selby? Wayne Selden. No, yeah, Wayne Selden.
Yeah, both right. Josh Selby and Wayne Selden, yeah.
Wayne Selden was a top 25 kid. So I remember somebody on my radio station saying, I know Wiggins is getting all the hype, but I think he's going to be the best player. 3 years there of unimpressive performance. Went to the league as a second-round pick and, has been on a roster for a couple of years, but didn't end up being a star. That's a spot that Kansas just hasn't delivered at. So, yeah, Grimes leaving. I mean, it's not a badge of honor for Kansas because he's the leading guy for, Houston. And if you're like, well, he wouldn't play defense. Really? He plays for Kelvin Sampson now. Right? And you don't get on the court unless you'll play some defense. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. I'd love to tell you get all over Syracuse, but this is when it ends. Like, Houston's better, and Houston probably wins big. Like, I would look at what do I have to get Houston plus? How much do I have to lay to be plus on Houston?
I don't know. Let me see if I don't think they have the special bets up yet. I can look on Circa. They may not offer it until it's closer to the weekend. Let me see. I'm on the William Hill account right now. Why do you want Houston plus? Why wouldn't you just bet Houston like minus 10 if you think it's going to be big?
Oh, I would do both. That's what I'm saying. Like, how much do I have to lay to get them to plus?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I don't know. I'm looking on like DraftKings. Like I said, my guess is they probably put up these special props.
I think Houston's going to win by like 18. I think there's a game that Syracuse has come out hot, gotten control of the game. The other teams had to play catch up against their zone. I think now, listen, Jim Boeheim and Kelvin Sampson have faced each other, I think, only once in the tournament. and Syracuse handled them in the Elite Eight in 03 when Kelvin Sampson had one of his best teams. It was a Final Four team coming back that brought, I think they had Hollis Price. I can't remember the low post big guy, and they were a really good team. They went to the Elite Eight, and they deserved to be there. It wasn't an upstart team. In fact, they were the higher. I think they were the 2, and Syracuse was the 3. And so it couldn't have been. That would have been the Elite Eight. That would have been so. Maybe the OU was the 1, and Syracuse was the 3. But so the Syracuse did not. They weren't a mediocre ACC team to win 6 in a row against high-level competition. It's a great run. They've done great things, but they're not winning 6 straight games. Somewhere they're going to get beat, and it might as well be this team.
Damn. Well, you know a lot of people are going to be on Syracuse. That's definitely the public side.
The other reason why I think this line should probably be higher.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to look at it and say, hey, why isn't Houston like -3 or 3.5? So there's going to be a ton of money on Syracuse.
Yeah, I'll take Houston minus the points. But I'm a fan of Syracuse, so maybe it's just like, oh, pick the other side. It'd be great when they win. Take anything. I'm wearing a Syracuse hoodie. Take what I say with a grain of salt. But I think Houston's going to win. I think they're going to win big.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I do think Houston's going to win, though.
Do you think Buddy Boeheim is as good as he's looked the last 2 games?
No.
Okay. I will say this, that there are others that have not looked good that may be on my player team. Like Griffin has not been as good as he really is. But so Boeheim could be less and other guys could be better. But I think Syracuse is overachieved to this point.
Hey, if you're cool, I just wanted to close on a lighter note.
Yes.
And it's basically just a way to rip on me because I'm a procrastinating dunce.
I prefer that.
How often do you have to call the plumber, like for water issues? I mean, you kind of redid a lot of your house, so you should.
Yeah, but we had to call about I'd like to slap somebody in the face. I won't get into that, but it's the guy who built something. But anyway, once I've called the plumber once. No, I've had to have like the contractor come back and fix several different plumbing things. But as far as like since he's been done, I've called the plumber once. Drain wouldn't go down, but I got to call him again soon. So there'll be a second time coming.
I joked on some of the teases. I was like, hey, does anyone know a plumber? I had a plumber stop by today. So the story is going back like 4 months, I started getting like some crazy high water bills. And I was like, I'll just fix it myself. I think there's a hose in the back with the sprinkler system. It's got a leak in it. So, I'll fix that. So I like glued it. I taped it up. And I'm like, it doesn't look like it's leaking too much. And then I got another high water bill. I'm like, all right. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. So I'm like $1,300 in over 4 months. I'm like, enough. So I call the plumber today, and he's like,
why don't you call the water company and say, where's this shit coming from?
Because they never have any answers. Because they don't know. They're just like, go to the front stoop there and, look in the water meter. If it's spinning, then you got a problem. Well, I did that, and it wasn't spinning.
Test the bill and threaten to sue. Then somebody will come out and get to the bottom of it.
So I call the plumber. He walks in. He's like, yeah, let me look here. He's like, yeah, your toilet's been running. I'm like, all right, there you go. $1,300 because I heard it running. I'm like, what the $1,300? And he's like, yeah, man, those things that'll ring you up pretty good. And he actually told me, and I don't think I'm outing the guy because I think we mentioned it on the air. We have a buddy locally who played Major League Baseball. Was rookie of the year in '95, Marty Cordova.
Yep.
And Marty had, I think he's downsized recently. He's doing really well actually post baseball, like really well. And he had some house that had like 9 bathrooms, 10 bathrooms. And like all the toilets were jacked up, and his plumber, same plumber as the guy I use. And my guy Mark was like, he's like, yeah, Marty set the record. He's like, he was in the thousands with the freaking toilet running. I'm like, okay, well, not that bad. Maybe like over months, like thousands and thousands. So I called up the water company, and they're like, yeah, as soon as we'll track it the next 3 months, and if it goes back to normal, then we'll give you a refund on whatever amount.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice. Because usually those utility companies are so thoughtful.
Well, I will give you my dilemma though, because so now I got to be a little water miserly. I'm going to be like looking around the house, making sure there's no leaks, nothing crazy, because I got to get it back to like the norm. And like I said, Petro lives the life. I try to. So I have a pool, and my pool guy, right, is like,
I know. I dream of having a pool.
Yeah, it's be careful. He's like, we need to empty the pool and refill it. So I got to text him back. I'm like, no refill, no. I'm like, we're not doing high water for a month, because he was like, it'll cost like $250. I'm like, no, like June you can refill the pool. I'll swim in goddamn algae and my skin will be peeling off before I go out of the norm on my water bill. And believe me, I'm going to give a little speech to the SO and be like, the showers, cut them back, okay? You got a broken ankle, you're not going out, you can shower once a week, okay? I can deal with the stink, you can deal with the stink. So we got rules in this house.
I like it. One of the things, like I said, when said improvements were done initially, we had a toilet that was misset. And all it did was dribble water down to the room below. Had to replace all the ceiling and the carpet and all that. And I was like, would we call this incompetence? Well, it was a mistake. But yeah, I know. Like setting the toilet wrong to where the toilet is leaking downstairs.
Yeah.
Like what? I said, okay, this is an incompetence. Tell me what's incompetence. Water spraying in my face every time I flush the toilet. You're doing, and to the guy's credit, incompetent as he may be, he did all the repairs himself. I'm like, you're replacing ceiling, you're replacing carpet, like that's incompetence. Like you had a blank canvas, install a toilet.
Yeah.
It wasn't come in and wrestle with this 25-year-old toilet. It was like, brand new toilet, just install it. Don't screw it up. And it was screwed up. Is that not the definition of incompetence?
Pretty much, yeah. By the way, I didn't include that in the story. When the plumber came over, and we're friends with him, he's good. He's like, didn't we install this toilet? I'm like, yeah, you did. Because I think it's been effed up and running from like the first week it was in the house. And that was probably over a year ago. So, yeah, you installed it.
Well, so I'm going to have the plumbers come out that I trust, and like the shower's not draining as well as I'd like. And they're going to be like, oh, you want us to snake it? I'm like, I don't want you to snake it. I want you to really fix it. Like, I don't want to see you every 15 months with your little device. Like, I want you to go do whatever it takes. And I know what it is. The jackass, when he grouted the shower, stuffed the grout down the shower, down the drain. And so now it's never going to drain right.
The clogged meats they're taking a toll on the pipes. And Pro Martini Maker might be onto something here. Maybe the pool guy's trying to get me $63, huh? All right, I'm still going to be careful.
I'd be careful.
Yeah, Brady, I can't. We'll do the radio. We'll do the radio story tomorrow. So there was a FM bit gone bad. So it's late. It's late, everybody.
FM radio, man. Like they totally get the bits.
Well, they're the real talents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you can see how FM is flourishing right now. They're the talents.
8 minutes an